you're this California surfer dude. And so like you have this chill attitude and vibe, and like you make it seem like, oh, it's easy. Welcome back to NEMT Experts. I've got Matt Saltzman, sorry, it's Saltzman, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, let me do that again.
That's okay. Don't worry.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to NEMT Experts. I've got Matt Saltzman, the owner of Ready Steady Transportation Services in Santa Cruz, California. Matt, how you doing?
I'm good, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Before we dive into it, can you tell us about your background?
Yeah. This is bootstrapping garage life. You're seeing surfboards over that shoulder because I'm in Santa Cruz, and that's what we do here with our free time. Below me is the example of the free time I don't have. This is e-bike for 1 and 3-year-old. So the free time to surf doesn't actually exist. Although, short story, I had an opportunity yesterday to jump in the water. I had an NEMT client I picked up on one side of town who non-medical related, just wanted to take a walk on the cliffs and then wanted to go from the cliffs to the farmer's market in downtown. So between those opportunities, I jumped in the water and surfed, and I've gotten to know this family. So I threw my surfboard in the van with the wheelchair and 2 guests and was like, hey, I hope you don't mind, there's a surfboard. They're like, no, we're so great. You're taking advantage of your time.
Who knew that NEMT could be aquatic? Amazing.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So we're living the family business surf life in here. Yeah.
Matt, how did you get into starting an NEMT business? Why have you done it?
Yeah, good question. I'll start with the journey, and then I'll tell you the why. I'll even back up 4 or 5 years ago to the pandemic. I've been an event producer my whole career. I am still an active event producer, but obviously during the pandemic, that kind of work disappeared for a short period of time, which turned into 12, 18 months. So during that time, I had a friend and former boss at an old event job who was actually awarded an Amazon DSP contract, and I heard on one of your latest episodes another DSP contractor as well. So I kind of started my journey in logistics like 4 or 5 years ago, and we started a DSP together, and I spent about 1.5 to 2 years just entirely focused on the DSP with him, and did everything from hiring to payrolling, all the insurance, and certifications on the back end. So I did business admin, and then I would do late night dispatching. So we would trade shifts. He'd do early mornings. I'd come in around 1 or 2, and I'd dispatch till 8 or 9 at night, and then head back home. And we did that for a long time until, we hired drivers on as managers, and that switched our mindsets, and we started going after FedEx trucking contracts. So now, I should be honest, he owns these companies, and I've just been a collaborator of his, but we started 2 different entities. First was FedEx trucking right out of our backyard in Santa Cruz County, where we were awarded a contract, and I think we got 3 or 4 operating trucks doing line haul for FedEx. And then about 1.5 years after that, so now we're like 3 years into this, we decided we were going to try to buy one, and we bought another FedEx line haul contractor in Dallas and have expanded that operation into the East Coast as well. So that was my start in logistics. Fast forward, and I was having my second child, was taking some time off, some paternity leave, and my business partner sort of challenged me, hey, get off my payroll and let's figure it out. Like, how are you going to do it? And at first I thought I was going to go into home care agency, and I interviewed for a handful of different franchises, thinking I was going to open a home care agency here locally in Santa Cruz and Monterey, because especially Monterey has a huge growing senior population. And kind of discovered pretty quickly, too many employees, too many people, especially with a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old at home. It was just really hard for me to imagine managing that scale of an office. And through that research, found NEMT as a parallel. And some of that was through your work, through your podcasts, and some of that was through some of the folks that you've had on, like Howard and some of the other industry experts, and started researching what I could and did my own sort of pro forma work. I went through the journey of potentially trying to buy a local NEMT company or even out of state NEMT companies. And kind of the secret sauce behind that is I got to see all of their finances. So I got to build my own sort of financial pro forma with what I knew about logistics and build my own business model and take that to banks and get myself approved for a loan. And having the logistics experience was sort of the kicker when it comes to, the bank conversations. And so, what I found was the scale of NEMT, like one vehicle equals about the same revenue and margins as 10 home care managers. And when I sort of cracked the nut and understood that like A/B comparison, it was a no-brainer. I was like, I'm going NEMT. I can manage 2 or 3 vehicles or even 5 or 6 vehicles on my own with the young kids at home and still maintain my event career and try to make it all work. And I'm still just at one vehicle right now, but it's not working. It's working.
Matt, I love the hustle. I love the entrepreneurial spirit. This is the American dream.
Yep, it is.
With all that you've got going on, like other ventures you do, like your events business, like raising 2 kids, like you still manage to run your NEMT business. You're at one vehicle, but you're still doing everything yourself and still find time to go take a dip in the water and surf.
I have to force that part of it, but yeah, totally. It happens occasionally.
How long ago did you start doing trips in NEMT?
January was, the vehicle was online in December and I started doing my first trips like right at the top of January. So I'm, 7 months in.
Okay. And how many trips do you do? Where do you get your trips from these days?
Yeah, I'm averaging between like 2 to 5 trips a week. Although this week was our first week where we've had multiple days of more than 1 trip in a day, which has been an exciting week. You're catching me at a fun time where today I have a driver on the road, a part-time driver who's doing 2 trips today. And that sort of covered a 9-hour span, which I know isn't terribly optimized, but I'm glad to have the 2 trips. So on a monthly basis, I would just say I've been breaking even. And this month, through trip reporting, I could see within 5 minutes of getting on the phone with you, my revenue, month to date has exceeded my overhead. So I'm going to have a profitable month here.
I was about to dive into the numbers. Like one of my recent guests said, it doesn't matter how many trips you do. What matters is the bottom line. I love
that. Yeah. Which is great because I had taken some of that advice from another industry expert similar to what Howard does. His name is Joel Davis, and I'm sure you heard of him. But he encouraged, he preaches the private pay market. And so that's really what I've been focused on up to this point is both like the residential, get the phone call, hey, I found your website, or hey, I found your card at the senior center. I want to book a ride for my mom. Like I do a lot of that sort of community marketing and Google search marketing and advertising. So I get about, maybe a third of my trips that way. And then I'd say 2/3 are referrals from post-acute facilities, rehab facilities, and home care agencies or hospice agencies that need to be the intermediary from, hospital to post-acute or from post-acute to home, but they don't want to take on, obviously, the liability of the transport. And so a lot of my day-to-day work, other than, yes, occasionally driving and hiring and training drivers, is I am out in the community knocking on business doors and doing like the B2B work. And that's really what I focus on.
Nice. Making those connections at your local facilities in Santa Cruz, like going there, sharing your card, sharing your flyer, and then it just sort of builds on itself. Matt, how have you found that your number of trips and like referral business has grown?
Mm-hmm.
Like initially, I'm sure it was mostly trips from you pounding the pavement, but now like the number of trips from people just knowing about your business has probably snowballed, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm still like in the really early phases where I'm still trying to like keep pushing that ball and try to watch it gain momentum on its own. And I say I'm still in like the push phase for sure. But every time I meet a new agency or a new facility, the response is, oh, this is great. And obviously every facility has its own sort of barriers, whether that's insurance or they have other contracts or whatever that is. But you just become known. And I tell people, give me your weird, challenging, difficult, long distance, bariatric, your late night, like whatever you got, and let's talk about it. And many of those times, the trip doesn't even end up happening. It's just about being in the conversation for me. And I go back and forth with, the case managers and, all right, this is how we're going to handle this one. And this is the challenges. And even if the trip doesn't happen, they're just so grateful to have somebody willing to be their sparring partner in managing the logistics for their patients. And that's what I'm doing. I'm being a great partner.
Yeah. And one of my recent guests also told me this. It's just the basics. Just like pick up the phone, be responsive. Like if facilities or people see that you do that, like they're going to keep coming back to you. Like say, hey, I'm available to do those late night trips that nobody else wants to do, right? Like get your foot in the door, show that like you're responsive. And that's just going to go a long way in getting people to keep calling you back again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. And some people, they want to call. A lot of people are like, hey, can I just like text you? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, I'm managing multiple things, moving pieces at the same time. I would love to just get a text from you that says, hey, I've got this thing in 2 days and this is the detail. Do you think you can handle it? And I can very quickly reference, Bambi and see what's going on our schedule and be like, yes or no. And so just being available, over the weekends, texting with facility managers, and building that kind of relationship. And, I do have a dispatch line that's more like consumer facing and, a virtual assistant who answers those calls. We sort of trade off hours, who's answering those calls. So half the time the call goes through that line, and many times my virtual assistant's able to put the estimate together inside of the trip function in Bambi. And for many months, we rehearsed where I would have to approve every invoice, and she's gotten good enough where I don't really need to see it anymore. And she books the ride, and I see it on our schedule, and she sends me a little message about it. And then half of the trips, come through my direct line because it's a relationship I'm building a little bit more like hyper locally,
Matt, it's like you're this California surfer dude. And so like you have this chill attitude and vibe, and like you make it seem like, oh, it's easy, but you're really like working hard behind the scenes, but you still seem so chill about it. I mean, about the amount of work, the hours you're putting in, like, because a lot of people start their NEMT businesses and they're stressed a lot of the time. And you seem to be the opposite of that. In fact, you're managing multiple ventures and kids. Like, how do you make it all work?
That's a really good question. I think it's just an attitude thing, like my event career was 70, 80 hours a week for most of my 20s. I slept in nightclubs or slept on tour buses, and so that honestly, that trained me for being a father of a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. So the no sleeping phase that I'm in is very similar to the earlier part of my event career, So I kind of just joke that I'm just still a production manager, and that's still what I'm doing, whether it's with my family or with the NEMT thing, But I will say, yes, I still do a lot of everything for Ready Steady. This is going to sound like a pat on the back. That's not how I want it to sound, but I had a friend approach me a few months ago. He's in the tech industry. He's nowhere near what we're doing in this world. He worked for me in events world, like when he was right out of college and still kind of trying to discover what he wanted to do with his career. And he shot me a text and was like, he's like, I'm a director now, and I got to thank you. Like, I watched you on an event site go from staff member to staff member, continuously checking in with them. Do you understand what your next hour of your production schedule looks like? And how are you handling this? And how are you going to do that? And he's like, you just constantly made rounds with people and checked in with people. And I was so young, I had there was no management strategy to that. It was just my personality. And what he made me realize in giving me a very kind compliment, which I appreciated, was I do have a skill set in events, which I'm applying here, which is, onboarding really kind, capable, flexible people, whether that's a driver or a dispatcher, and really spending immense amounts of time walking them through the details of their role. And I spend a lot of time with my new drivers, like within a 30-day period, I'm with them 60 to 70% of their rides. And, I don't know if I'll be able to sustain that if I start to reach my scaling goals, but I know how important it is. And it gives the drivers confidence to go out and do their thing without me. And I think that is my secret sauce. It's one-on-one attention to every single team member and really helping build their skill set.
Amazing. So you are really going through the motions of every role and knowing the ins and outs yourself, and getting that across to whoever you're going to place in that role before you step back, which is so critical. A lot of people say, hey, I'll just hire a driver because they know how to drive and handle all that stuff, and I don't want to figure it out. Or billing or dispatching, I'll just hire someone, they'll figure it out. Like, no, like you got to know it all yourself back and forth.
And type A is control freak, and event managers are all type A. And I guess I present California chill. I'm not a native Californian. I'm not a native surfer. And I still carry that sort of type A with me. And just, there's a exterior here that's working,
Hey man, if it works.
Yeah, totally. Thank you.
You mentioned your scaling goals. What are your scaling goals?
Yeah, I would like to get to like 10 to a dozen vehicles. And I see that through a few paths. I see that doing it organically, where by the end of 2025, if I could add 2 more vehicles, I'd be really happy, and my first year with 3 vehicles. If I could be at 6 vehicles, by the end of year 2, like I'm okay with a really slow pace here, and then in the future, as I look ahead, like getting into like operating year 3, I could organically expand to, those next 6 vehicles, or I'd like to potentially just buy another competitor or somebody out of state, and sort of connect operational efficiencies. I don't even necessarily believe I have to be local to a business that I were to buy to apply the learnings. I listened to the interview you did where the California guys, trying to scale all within the state of California. That's great. It's obviously very imperative to be close to the business, but California is a really difficult place to hire and maintain staff and employees, and the taxes suck, and the workers' comp sucks, and the insurance rates suck. And I don't necessarily need to be here in California. It's just where I am and where my lifestyle is,
Yeah. I resonate with all that.
Yeah. But to the point of Bambi, like Bambi allows me to think that way. Like I could scale to many vehicles that I'm not even near.
Yeah. And just manage it remotely, essentially. Yeah. Matt, you are making this business something that works for you. You're not like, oh, I have to raise a bunch of money and I have to hit this goal by this time and whatever. Like, I like how you run a profitable business as of today. You with the one vehicle and with the folks that you've brought on to manage parts of it, and you'll just keep growing it profitably. And like when the time comes, like you said, hey, maybe I'll want to buy another competitor. But
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I would love to have already been at 3 vehicles, right? And I think when I wrote my pro forma, I think maybe I thought I would have been there by now. But what I'm also realizing through this is, 1, I had to learn it, and 2, the trust building with facility admin is taking probably a lot longer than I would have ever anticipated. And I have competitors that have been around and they have contracts. And sorry, you're hearing a crying toddler, but there's what I have been lucky to tap into is, and I think I've heard other people talk about this on your podcast, is this Senior Roundtable community. I don't know if it's everywhere, but certainly in California, my region, there are these senior roundtables, which is collections of admins at facilities and senior facilities and home care agencies. And it's as much a social platform as it is educational. And fortunately, I got in pretty early to the one in Santa Cruz, and now I'm working on getting into the ones like in Monterey and Silicon Valley and the surrounding counties. And those are the single most important meetings for me on a monthly basis, because these administrators just get to see me and they know who I am, and I get to shake their hands and chat about their kids or chat about music or whatever. And yeah, hand them my flyer and wear my logos and introduce myself in the room and make a joke. Like, everybody introduces themselves. I do business development for, this assisted living facility. And I stand up and I go, I do business development and sales and marketing and hiring and training and driving some, and I like make a joke of being the young hustler. And I think that has been a trust building process. And now people know who I am. And then the next part of it is filtering that down from admin to the larger teams and the case managers and the social workers, so that they know how to get in touch with me when the need arises. And that's kind of the phase that I'm in right now, just in Santa Cruz. Whereas in Monterey and Silicon Valley, I'm still just in trust building phase. So I think, yeah, you're right. Like, it's working for me now because it's a fairly simple business right now. And I have financial pressure, whether that's the loan or, family and mortgages and that kind of stuff. But to me, it's like that stuff will all come, and I'm going to maintain my belief in that process that it's going to work, and that stuff is going to come if I just continue engaging in the trust building process,
Nice. These senior roundtables, when did you start getting into them?
Like, fortunately, like right away, like in February or March, I went to my first one, and it just came about because I had a friend who worked in one of the facilities in town. Our kids go to preschool together, and we were all getting to know each other, the parents, and I realized that there was this sort of industry connection. And when the time was right, I approached her and I said, hey, I'm starting a business in your industry, and can I take you to coffee? And taking her to coffee turned into her being willing to come on board as sort of like a very short term, totally impermanent contractor, just to help me make introductions and help like socialize myself within the community. And that led to meeting the right people who invited me to the Senior Roundtable. And then once I was there, I was like, I have to stay here. Like, I have to be in this because this is it,
Yeah. Amazing. And these senior roundtables, I mean, is this like the kind of thing that happens all over, or is it specific to your area in Santa Cruz?
I have no idea. I don't know if that's like a nationwide thing. It's certainly in the 3 counties that surround me. And, there's chapter leaders, and I think it all originated in Santa Cruz, and then like it broke off into other chapters, and there's different leaders now, is sort of my understanding. But I have not a clue if it would be available to other people out in other states,
They just meet regularly and talk about issues related to senior citizens.
Yeah. And a lot of it is like once a month, it's a morning session, and it's educational. They'll bring in a doctor of some kind to do education for the entire room about common like senior health challenges, so that we're all a little bit more informed, because many people in the room, including an EMT, we're not nurses, we're not RNAs and CNAs, and I'm going to make up all these terms that I've heard and don't know much about at all. Like, we're not trained doctors and medical professionals. We're servicing non-emergency need or companion needs or facility needs, and of course there are experts in the room, but they kind of use it as an educational platform. And then the alternating month is a happy hour in the afternoon, and it's just everybody getting together. And a lot of what comes up is Santa Cruz grew really fast during the pandemic, because it's right over the hill from Silicon Valley. I know you know this well because you live there, and we have a lot of commuters, or telecommuters now into Silicon Valley that live in Santa Cruz. And listen, I'm one of those who left LA and left my career in LA and came here because it's my wife's hometown. And That's a common story, of families starting in Santa Cruz, and the hospitals are overwhelmed. And I know this is a theme all over the country. It's why it's relevant. And a lot of what comes up in these meetings are the hospitals checking in with facilities. Can I push more capacity into your facility? And then the facility is chatting with the home care agencies. Can I push more capacity into your expertise to do at-home care? But for me, I'm the connector of all of those transitions in a way. So I just try to kindly insert myself into those conversations and say, I pitch outcomes just like I do in my event world for corporations. I pitch outcomes to these people, like, let me support the continuity of care that you're providing. And the best way to do that is if there's an extension of the hospital or an extension of the post-acute facility or an extension of the home care agency, and that is reliable, safe, kind, caring, not medically trained in any official capacity, but we have room on the vehicle for medically trained attendants, and I welcome that. I welcome training from facilities. If you want to give us a specific training on a common, transport issue you're seeing, I'll invest in the training with you, and, how do I deepen a relationship and become an extension of the operation that all those services are providing in a medical perspective,
Yeah. Amazing. Just, you get into this super connector senior meeting and you're just sponging, just learning, hey, yeah, I can do this. Connect with a facility. You want me to do this kind of transport? Sure. Happy to learn whatever issue you're facing. This is it, man. This is the hustle, the American dream. Work, you're willing to learn, you can solve people's problems, and then you have a business that's profitable.
Yeah, it's what it is. It's providing value in a community, and in this particular industry, just being kind and honest. And those are all things that I try to do. I can't always promise I'm the kindest if I've had 3 hours of sleep, but we do our best.
So it's been 7 months. Over the next half a year, what do you think are the pieces of the business that you'll first hand off to, people that you'll hire or bring in?
Great question. I would love to hand off fleet management and maintenance. It's not a particular passion or expertise of mine to care about an oil change, So, I imagine that I will have a driver who's a lead driver, and their core responsibility is fleet management. And they will have extra hours in their day just dedicated to checking in with the fleet, So that's one of the first things I'd love to hand off. And then, I'm happy dispatching and taking, client calls and customers. That's no problem. I just know it, if I get the multiple vehicles, that becomes a lot of phone calls in a day, and I can't possibly return all of those voicemails. So, but I already have the virtual assistant who's slowly training to be customer service, and finding better techniques there. And then I think my next hurdle will be billing, because I am on the precipice of being able to open myself up to Medi-Cal billing within, or taking, insurance rides through Medi-Cal. And, I know the pitfalls of it, but I've never done one, and I want to make sure it's right early on. And I've gotten some great advice from some people, but, that's a place where I probably will do it early on and then will hand it off eventually.
I believe.
Knock on wood. Thank you.
I'm betting on you, Matt.
I'll give you a run, Bambi, run. Let's go.
Thanks, Matt.